Each month, WTAP and Morrison Incorporated honor first responders for the work they do protecting us. The recipient of this month's Golden Shield is a firefighter and EMT with the Little Hocking Fire and Rescue Department. Our Andrew Knoll introduces us to him.
Joshua Watkins is the recipient of the December Golden Shield Award. Watkins is known for his self-dedication to the community and is a good mentor to all at the Little Hocking Fire and Rescue Department. He shared what it meant to him to receive the Golden Shield Award.
Very thankful that the community comes together and WTAP comes together and presents these awards. We do what we do because we enjoy helping other people out.
Watkins was nominated for the award after helping a woman who went into labor and needed to be rushed to the hospital back in September. With Watkins taking charge of the situation, he and members of his squad were able to successfully deliver the baby in the back of the ambulance. The Little Hocking Fire and Rescue Fire Chief Mike Chevalier, who was also a part of helping deliver the baby, shared more about the experience.
We were fortunate enough to get called on a lady that was in labor, and we didn't quite make it to the emergency room or to the hospital before she delivered. It was basically a textbook delivery, no difficulties. The lady did great, baby did great, and shortly after that, we said we need to get a stork on the ambulance because that's kind of like a badge of honor.
Watkins played a vital role in the delivery of the baby, ensuring the mother and baby were safe and stable when they arrived at the hospital. The president of Morrison Incorporated, David Hawes, spoke about Watkins and the importance of first responders in our community.
And Joshua was a perfect example of the character of the people that are typical first responders. Selflessness, gives up family time, goes out and helps people. As we all know, most volunteer fire departments have a difficult time getting enough people to get things done. It's not just doing the runs, it's also training all the time and getting recertification when they have to. And I think Joshua is just a great role model for young people.
If you would like to nominate a first responder for the Golden Shield Award, you can head over to WTAP.com and click on the Features and Contests tab to find the Golden Shield Award to fill out a nomination form. From Little Hocking, I'm Andrew Knoll, WTAP News. This is home.